Very good afternoon to everybody. Thanks for clicking on to the live stream this afternoon. It is Sunday, the 28th of July. It is the Global Weather and Climate Report edition 102. We're certainly climbing higher and higher with the numbers. It is and has been ongoing for the best part of just over 2 years. It was, I think, 2 years back in June that the Global Weather and Climate Report was first released here on the channel, and it continues to expand and grow, and I'm hoping that folks are joining in to enjoy the content. But a very good afternoon. Hope you are all well. The sun is shining, and I think the good news is, and very rare situation indeed, is the fact that it's shining for the majority of the British Isles, if not all of the UK, as well as Ireland also. So we've got 11 concurrent viewers at the moment. Thanks to Lindsay for moderating as always. And a very good afternoon to Mark Kinnish, JL, David Vogan, and Chris A is currently on the live chat. So how is everybody doing this afternoon? It's hard to believe that we are approaching the end of July and beginning August and the final month of meteorological summer. It's just pretty remarkable how quickly this year is going to end, and it has been quite a fascinating summer. There's probably people that are saying, fascinating is not the word that I would have used for this summer, and I can completely understand. I think we've been very, very much spoilt with regards to summers in recent times. I think it's very easy to remember and forget, should I say, actually, the summers that have gone before us. Many summers in a row were pretty miserable, cold, wet, dull, and I suppose this summer really kind of stands out from the warm trend that we've had in recent years in particular. And we know that the global temperature, both in the oceans, the land areas, and the atmosphere, continues to rise. There is no denying that. There's no getting away from that, folks. And obviously everybody's got their own opinion with regards to the cause of that warming. Some say it is carbon dioxide. Some say it's cyclical. And, throw in your own reason behind the warming. I suppose we don't know for absolute certainty what is exactly driving it. It's probably multiple factors. But it looks as if during the course of the week just gone, we have seen a new global temperature average since records began back in 1979. So we'll wait and see and build the numbers here, get the audience built up before we look into the content of today. As always, there is currently, I believe, 12 concurrent viewers at the moment. So it's a little bit of a slow start. But I would encourage you to hit that like button if you have joined in this afternoon. Hello to Joyce and David, my mum and dad, down in Kirkintilloch. Hope you're enjoying your Sunday afternoon, both of yous, and keeping well. We've got Callum Potter, we've got Chris A, we've got Paul James down in Hampshire joining in. Hello to you, Paul. Hope you're having a good afternoon, my friend. And have I got anybody else? So let's have a look and see what folks are saying. So let's go back to the start. We've got Chris A was, I believe, the first one on this afternoon. Afternoon, everyone. Mark Vogan, Lindsay Vogan, Paul James, Gavin Partridge, Steffi Adcock. David says, hello, Mark, from a warm, sunny afternoon here in Kirkintilloch, the canal capital of Scotland. JL says, hello, Mark Vogan and all. We've got Mark Kinnish saying, hi, Mark. Good afternoon, David Vogan, says Chris A. JL, I am doing good. Doing some yoga and watching, so won't be typing. No problem, JL. You enjoy that. So who else have we got here? Mark says, good. Thanks, Mark. Sunny afternoon here in the world. 23 Celsius and sunshine. Callum says, good afternoon. We've got who else have we got here? I think we've got have we got Katrine in today? We've got Katrina. Hello to you, Katrina. Hope you're well this afternoon. So we've got 13 at the moment here. Have you hit that like button? I would greatly appreciate it if you could do so. And we will warm things up in just a second. So a little bit of admin to start off with. The live stream next weekend will actually probably, I'm hoping anyway, if all goes well, to have the live stream at 4 p.m. on Saturday afternoon next weekend, not Sunday, because my wife and I are going to be travelling down to Glasgow on Sunday. And then we are on holiday as of the Monday. So essentially we're on holiday as of Sunday next week. But there will be a global weather report released, but it will be an uploaded video. It's not going to be a live video. But next Saturday, I will have a live stream and instead of the Sunday. And then hopefully the following weekend, a long way off, obviously a lot can change. I'm hoping to do a live stream from Brazil. But we'll wait and see what happens with regards to that, because it depends on the strength of the internet in the hotel, etc., etc. It also depends on what plans are in place as well, because I don't necessarily want to be focusing too much on YouTube and the channel when we're on holiday. So I'm sure you'll appreciate the fact that coming up there will be a little bit of a kind of hit and miss with regards to content here on the channel due to the fact that we're on holiday and we're going to be away. So next weekend, like I say, live stream hopefully on Saturday. There will be an uploaded video for the Sunday, and hopefully the Monday there's going to be a little bit of a pre-recorded set of content that's going to be produced during the upcoming work week, hopefully for you to check in and check out during the week, 10 days that we're away. So I hope you can appreciate that situation for myself and my wife. Mark Kinnish says, the way I see it, Mark, it's what we've seen before. Good summers and not so good summers. Same with winter cycles. They come around. Very, very much agree with you, Mark. I do personally believe that we are in a warming trend, but there is blips back and forward here. I'm sure there's not many people would have forecasted the summer that we've already seen, the June being cool, the July being cool. Yes, we've got warmer conditions now developing here, and the big question mark, as I've said all along now, is what is going to take place during the month of August. That is going to be the question mark, and a lot depends on the tropics, I think. The June through July period has been extremely persistent. We've had a kind of standing wave pattern of ridging over the North Pacific, ridging over the North Atlantic, with a west to northwesterly flow and troughiness over the UK and Ireland. That has essentially been the same story, really extending all the way back to May. Not even June and July, but May as well has seen a very persistent ridge of high pressure over the North Atlantic, with a trough over Western Europe, and then a ridge over the eastern side of the continent where we've had building drought conditions during the springtime. That, I think, has been working along with the type of sea surface temperature profile in the North Atlantic to drive this coupled situation between ocean and atmosphere. A very, very clear relationship between what the sea surface temperatures are like and the atmospheric pressure pattern. And I will be hopefully releasing, if not today, tomorrow I will release the August outlook, and that is describing and talking in quite a bit of detail with regards to the type of summer that we've had, the type of upper air pattern that we've had as well. So it will be available, like I say, on the website either tonight or tomorrow, so you can check that out. So Katrine says, apart from the hay fever, I am finding the humidity hard to cope with. It is very humid here in Thurrock, and would be happy if there was a thunderstorm with plenty of rain to clear the atmosphere out. Katrine, I do appreciate that. And I think, to be honest, we've been quite spoiled in terms of folks like yourself, maybe not a big fan of the heat or the humidity. It has been a very comfortable summer so far, and it looks as if we are certainly warming things back up as we end the month of July here. We've got Maxinja, I hope that is the right pronunciation, joining in. I am curious about the weather developing in Otvia, etc. Whereabouts are you tuning in from? Excuse my ignorance, but I'm not 100% sure whereabouts that is. We've got 107th Galaxy also tuning in. Very good afternoon to you as well. I hope you're having a good Sunday. And yeah, I also want to try and provide a poll and ask the question, what is the best time? As we're starting to move closer and closer towards the autumn season, obviously the winter ideas are going to start to build up as well. What is the best time for you personally? I want to find out between the hours of 12 noon and 4 p.m. on a Sunday, is there a specific time that's better for you? Because obviously I want to make sure and catch the audience. Sunday evenings, I tend to not provide any videos here. It's kind of a bit of downtime. Obviously, I work night shift as well, but over the weekends, I like to spend a little bit of time with my wife and just chill out. So I tend to avoid anything beyond 4 p.m. But is there a better time for you to tune into the live stream? Anywhere between, say, midday and 4 p.m. I would be curious to find out what everybody's opinion is. So you're tuning in from Latvia. Very interesting stuff. We have got an unusual situation appearing on the models where we've got a rapid deepening area of low pressure that looks as if it's going to materialize during the course of tomorrow. Pressure may drop 25 millibars within a 24-hour period, which, by the way, even in the winter time, that's quite unusual to see a rapidly deepening area of low pressure over mainland Europe, but it looks as if that is going to be the case. We will try and look into that in a wee bit of detail. We'll look at some of the model output with regards to that in a little while. So hang fire and remain on the live stream if you can, and we'll look into that in a bit of detail shortly here. So hit that like button, let myself and YouTube know that you're enjoying the content here on the channel. Let's get into the meat and bones of today's content. So this is the CDAS 0.5 month to date temperatures and anomaly, should I say, not temperatures, but the anomaly compared to average. Remember, for the majority of our latitude, in other words, the mid-latitude pattern, we are peaking in temperature. This is about the warmest time of the year, late July into early August, especially for further south across Europe. You generally peak during the first day or two of August. Up across the north of Europe, we've just slightly passed the average peak in terms of temperature for the year. For here in the UK, we're close to that at the moment, around the 27th, 28th of July. Tends to be the hottest, on average, the hottest time of the entire calendar year. So this is the temperature anomalies. Like I say, we've got a colder than average in Alaska. We've got fairly warm across Canada with the exceptions of northern Quebec. The United States has been an interesting one, actually. I thought we would have had a big, strong ridge parked over the plain states during the month of July. That has not been the case, by the way, but we've had more of a trough and a lot of storminess over the central portion of the country. Hot in the west, as we know, and also hot up the east coast from Florida to Maine. Down across South America, we've had a bit of a north-south split across the north. It has been rather warm compared to average. Remember, that it's the winter time now, peaking in the southern hemisphere, especially down towards the mid-latitudes of the southern hemisphere. This is generally close to the climatological coldest time of the year down here, while it's the hottest up here across the north. Australia has had average to slightly below average, with the exceptions of parts of the southeast and the southwest corner of the continent here. Most of Africa, with the exceptions of the far south and equatorial Africa, has been slightly below average. Interesting one, Kazakhstan seems to stick out over the entire Eurasian landmass, with the exceptions of the far west, and we'll talk about that in a second. But this interesting area of cool has appeared. Now, India, we're running well above average with regards to the monsoon at the moment here, so hence why we've got slightly below average temperatures here due to a lot of thunderstorms, southwesterly winds, the monsoon storm systems moving in, or monsoon rainfall continuing to drive in across most of the subcontinent of India. And Argentina, down across South America, Argentina, parts of Bolivia, southern portions of Chile as well has been colder than average during the month of July. And let's have a look at the continents, starting off with Europe. So we know that we are very likely, despite the warmth that we've got going at the moment, we are likely to be slightly below average for the month of July. So that follows the 0.5 below average during the month of June for the UK and Ireland as well. And we've also had quite a cool July down across France. We've obviously got the Olympics ongoing at the moment. And we've also got building heat from the south, from Iberia, where temperatures are in and around the 40-degree mark. We've had temperatures as high as 46 Celsius during the course of last week. And that heat is going to build northwards up towards Paris. And it will be very, very hot, I think, this upcoming week in the Paris area for both spectator and Olympian themselves. It is going to be a tough slog, I think, over the next week or so here. But it has been a very hot summer across the Balkan region, eastern areas of Europe. Both June and July combined has been very, very warm indeed. Let's have a look at Australia. And obviously this is the middle of winter down under. And it is average to slightly below average, especially across the heart of the continent. Slightly warmer than average across the southwest. Slightly warmer than average across the southeast of the continent as well. Looks as if New Zealand is a bit of a north-south split as well. Cool in the North Island, warmer in the South Island here. And looking at the continent of Asia, there's Kazakhstan standing out in a relative sea of warmth, especially to the north of the Himalayas. You can see here it's generally warmer than average. We do have a little bit of cooler than average, but also wetter than average due to the presence of once Typhoon Gaemi, which brought major flooding to the Philippines, major flooding to Taiwan, and also eastern areas of China. We've also seen the Meiyu front moving up into Japan, northern areas of Honshu in Japan, seeing some very, very significant rainfall over the course of a few days. But look at India, it's standing out as well in terms of cooler than average. But then as you move into Eastern Europe here, that borderline between Central Asia and Europe, seeing some of the warmest anomalies. Very, very warm as well to the north of Mongolia, up into Siberia. Bless you. Lindsay sneezing in the background there. And we've also got averages slightly above average conditions down across southeastern portions of Asia. Looking at North America as a continent for the month of July so far, and it is running fairly cool in the central portion of the country here, very hot across the west and very warm across the east as well. Mexico generally warmer than average. Most of Canada, with exceptions of central and northern Quebec, is cooler than average up here. And yeah, let me have a look here at Africa as well. Let's not forget Africa. You can see here below average conditions in parts of sub-Saharan Africa into the western Sahel region, seeing some quite cool conditions compared to average. And down across the far south of the continent, we're seeing quite a cool July down in the obviously winter still down here as well. Obviously, western portions of Madagascar is actually below average conditions as well. So yeah, that is our little tour of the temperature anomalies around the planet for the month of July. This, by the way, is interesting. This is the last 60-day anomaly, and for the last 60 days, which is a fair amount of time actually, and that extends all the way to the second half of spring, all the way up until the 28th of July. We're running below average across the UK and Ireland. Notice here, even down across France, has been quite cool late spring and through the first half of the summer season. So isn't that quite interesting that we're running quite a persistent cool anomaly? So it's going to be really quite interesting to see how August pans out. Do we continue to see this, or are we going to see something a bit warmer here? So we've got 20 concurrent viewers at the moment here. Do me a favor, hit that like button, and if you haven't already done so, please hit that subscribe button as well. It would be very greatly appreciated. It just shows me that it's worth continuing to work hard here in the channel, and you know, it's continuing to help it grow, which is very, very appreciated. So let me just see here. So Chris A says, Mark, Mark, will the worst of the heat miss the south of the UK here? I wouldn't be surprised, Chris, if we see 32 Celsius. Now, the highest we've seen so far is 31.9 at St James's Park in London, and I think we could conceivably, during the first couple of days of the upcoming work week, achieve 32, possibly even 33 Celsius. Now, up here across Scotland, we're still awaiting the first 25 of July. Now, it did happen back in June, but specifically for the month of July, according to weather presenter at the STV, Sean Batty, we are now in the midst of the latest 25 for the month of July since 2010. And it'll be interesting. Back then, we didn't have a day at or above 25 Celsius up here across the north. And it's going to be very interesting over the next day or so to see if that 25 can be achieved. Now, I did message him and ask, when was the last time, before 2010, when was the last time Scotland did not achieve 25 in the month of July? That will be interesting to find out. But certainly 14 years, we're in the midst of the longest wait of a 25, and we may not get there during the month of July. And like I said, I think the tropics are going to be key, and I keep harping on about this in terms of the type of pattern the western portions of Europe will see. Now, we've seen a strengthening of intertropical forcing over the western portions of equatorial Africa. The intertropical convergence zone, which is related to the development of storms and hurricanes in the Atlantic basin, is starting to strengthen over the western side of the continent. And it's been known that the relationship between this strengthening west monsoon trough over the equatorial region of West Africa relates to the building and strengthening of pressure and heat over Spain and Portugal. And if you start to heat up Iberia, you have a greater chance of seeing that heat lifting into the UK, especially if you've got lows, deepening lows, moving towards the UK and Ireland. That just essentially opens the door to that warmth getting lifted into the UK. And that's exactly what we're seeing, by the way, right now. We've got a deepening of the trough out of Greenland into the North Atlantic to the west of the British Isles, and that is allowing southerly winds to drag that 40 Celsius, albeit it moderates greatly, thankfully, as it lifts north out of Spain and Portugal. But we are seeing that happen, like a bit of a Spanish plume, for example. 32 Celsius is very doable in the southeast over the next couple of days here. But we have got a frontal system that is approaching Scotland that is going to essentially close the door to any real proper warmth lifting up into the northern half of the UK. It's always generally the southeast and the eastern side of the British Isles that gets that real heat off the continent, and that is exactly what we're seeing at the moment and likely to see over the next few days before the westerlies kick back in again. So yeah, do you like the heat? I like the heat, I must admit, but in moderation, I think, is probably the best way to put it. Obviously, we don't have air conditioning in many homes within the UK. Don't really necessarily need it up across the north, but certainly down across the London area, I'm sure folks are probably already finding it a little bit on the warm side. Chris A says, I heard it could be 32 at the most in London on Tuesday. Yes, very much so, Chris, as obviously I've already discussed so far. Katrine says, I think the coolest summers in Scotland was in the early 1990s, possibly the 70s and the 80s as well. I have to be honest, we've got a long history of multiple summers in a row that have been quite miserable. And I think, to be honest with you, we essentially have just been, don't unfortunately have the stats in front of me, but we have been spoiled in recent times, especially record heat. Obviously, since 2003, we've seen the UK maximum, the ceiling rise. You know, it was, 37 point something, or 38.7, I think it was, in Kent back in August 2003. Then we've seen in 2019 that record break. Then we've seen it break once again during July 2022, where we hit the first 40 officially within the UK on record. So it's becoming easier with this warming planet that we've got at the moment. Obviously, oceans, the land, and the atmosphere. We've got the UAH temperature, the lower tropospheric temperature, reaching record levels. This is probably a byproduct of the Super El Nino even back in 2015, with a strong El Nino last year. This is all contributing to the warming trend that we're seeing ongoing. So Paul Farwell, hello to you. I think I've said hello to you. I hope I have. But Paul says thundery breakdown from Thursday, I think. It actually looks as if we've got a bit of a bowling ball area of low pressure seen by the models moving into the UK out of kind of the Iceland area, northeast Atlantic. Looks as if that area of low pressure swings in during the second half of next week, and it could actually be quite a deep area of low pressure for the time of the year. So we've got 24 concurrent viewers at the moment here. Thanks for tuning into today's live stream. It is obviously Sunday the 28th of July. We are rapidly approaching the final month of meteorological summer, would you believe? And yeah, we will continue to crack on. But this is, like I said, the 60-day temperature anomaly. Very distinct, very hot east versus cool west over the last 60 days. So let me see here what we've got. The La Nina looks as if we are starting to see movement in terms of the cool anomaly over the Nino region 3.4. We had a sharp drop off back during the course of May from almost a half degree above average to average, even below average by the time we moved into the second half of May. Then we've seen a bit of a rise back above average, then a drop, then a rise. It's been kind of stagnating in terms of that progress of cooling. But in the last couple of weeks here, we've seen a drop back below average. Now, we are increasing the easterly trade winds within the East Pacific, and therefore we should start to see La Nina kicking in. And obviously, in yesterday's tropical outlook, which there is a link in the description below today's video if you want to check that out, a 26-minute discussion with regards to the situation in terms of the tropics, not just the Atlantic, but also the Pacific as well, is looked at in a bit of detail. So we are going to see the La Nina likely continue to strengthen. The National Hurricane Center looks as if we have got a threat of development over the next 7 days. NHC has given this area over the central main development region a 40% chance over the next 7 days of development here. As the MJO starts to move towards the Atlantic basin, some of these African easterly waves are going to start holding together more. We've had a lot of dry air. We've had not so much in the way of shear, to be honest, but the widespread subsidence in the atmosphere has suppressed development, combined with the SAL or Saharan dust layer. That has been keeping the lid on the Atlantic basin. And what we should start to see is the tropics and these waves start to get their act together as we move into the month of August. This is the dry air seen by the website CIMSS, I think it is. So this shows you the amount of dusty air within the atmosphere. This is looking at the western portion of the Atlantic basin. Plenty of dusty air moving through the Caribbean at the moment here, just kind of stifling any kind of development at this moment in time. Now, the MJO I just spoke about, you can see here that we do. So this is essentially, looking at Africa, Indian Ocean, maritime continent, so Indonesia, then the Pacific, and you've got a lot of convection over the western portion of the Pacific. We've seen Praparun, we've seen Gaemi making landfall in Asia. That has been directly linked to this rising air or upward motion over the West Pacific basin. We've had widespread subsidence in the East Pacific, the Americas, and the Atlantic basin. But notice here that as we progress through the month of August, we see this pulse, this wave start to propagate its way eastwards over the Pacific, eventually moving into the Americas and the Atlantic, and we should start to see the Atlantic waking up. So we're going to keep a close eye on that going forward. Now, this is an interesting one here, actually, by the way. Remember I talked about last week and the week before about the the warming within the stratosphere over Antarctica. This is the response to that warming with the AAO. So this is essentially the southern hemisphere equivalent to the Arctic Oscillation. Look at it there. It's tanked into -3 below the neutral line. This is a very significant and relatively rare event where essentially at 500 millibars you're seeing very strong blocking. So this would be a dream pattern if this was in the northern hemisphere and it was during the winter time. We would expect to see cold in North America, Europe and Asia, but essentially this is taking place within this over the South Pole, and we may see at the very least increased rains over parts of Australia, South America, even South Africa as well, but also the possibility of colder than average conditions as well. So this would be a dream in the winter time over the northern hemisphere, and it'll be interesting to see if we see some sort of reflection of this 6 months down the line here. I've mentioned this before about stratospheric warmings over the South Pole. There's been some people saying that there's a relationship between what goes on over the southern hemisphere as what happens in the winter following over the northern hemisphere. Does that make sense? I hope it does. But this is quite an interesting event going on, by the way, and this may lead to some of the reasoning behind why we've seen a new global temperature record set during the course of the week, because we've got very, very unusual warmth over Antarctica. Remember, it's the middle of winter here. Obviously, it's not warm, but it's much warmer than average over Antarctica, and this is likely the reason behind it. We've got a deeply negative AAO over the South Pole at the moment here. This is also quite a cool graphic here. So this is the NOAA Coral Reef Daily Watch. This is the sea surface temperature anomalies essentially over the last 90 days. And look at the trend of what's taken place. So this is the start. Then as we've progressed during June and July, look at the warming that takes place over both the North Pacific and the North Atlantic. And this is why I think the summer has been the way it is. The high has essentially been parked over this very warm anomaly just to the east of Newfoundland and Labrador. That has been where the mean high has lived for the last 60 or so days here, allowing the cool trough, unsettled conditions over the west of Europe and also over central North America as well. But that's pretty cool, right? Because I actually had somebody saying it would be quite good for you to be able to look at this in other videos. Somebody had commented about showing this again, so I thought I'm going to do that. That's pretty cool, isn't it? Just amazing how quickly the Atlantic and the Northwest has warmed up over the last 90 days, and we've also seen some significant warming, and the high over the North Pacific has been directly linked and correlated to the high over the North Atlantic and the North Pacific. Notice here it's on the same latitude. So yeah, definitely the ocean is driving the atmospheric pressure pattern at the moment here. And like I said, there's nothing kicking disrupting this cycle, this repeat, rinse and repeat cycle within the atmosphere. It's the same over North America. The high just continuously wants to go back over to the western United States here, the trough in the east, central, and then the ridge in the eastern half of the country. The pattern has essentially just continued to repeat itself right the way through the summer so far. So you say to yourself, what changes that? It's going to be the tropics. It's going to be the MJO moving into the Atlantic Basin and disrupting this cycle that's going on, continuous cycle, and it needs something to basically break the pattern. And that is, I think, essentially what we're going to start to see happening. If we can get some sort of warm tropical energy to lift north into the mid-latitudes, that will then give the atmosphere the kick it needs to get out of the rut that we're in. So it's going to be very interesting during the month of August and then on into September. So we've reached a new peak. I know there's going to be a lot of debate over this, but this is a global weather and climate report. But this was a tweet here by Copernicus EU on Twitter. Back, what day was this? This was the 24th of July. And it says, the Earth just experienced its warmest day on record. And that is true. folks. That is true. It says on record, though. So I'm going to just leave it at that, because everybody's got their own opinion with regards to all this. But we have definitely reached a new peak. 17.09 Celsius as a new global surface air temperature record. So we have also got minimum global sea ice, both within Antarctica and also over the Arctic region as well. So yeah, let me see here now. Right. Let's move on to the effects of Gaemi within the West Pacific here. This is quite an interesting tweet here by Matthew. I believe he's based in the Philippines, where there has been extremely devastating flooding, which is no real surprise. This is a part of the world that is the most prone anywhere on the planet with regards to both landfalls of tropical systems and also extreme rainfall. But this is an interesting fact here, talking about the Gaemi became an unusually long-lived storm when it made landfall in China in the afternoon of July 25th local time. It remains to be a named storm at the time. The centre was in the province of Hubei, or Hubei, I think it is. This afternoon, Saturday afternoon, 27th of July. A total of 2 days and 700 kilometers from the landfall of from the landfall in Fujian province. So it basically lived as a tropical storm for 700 kilometers after making landfall. That is extremely unusual to see that taking place, because usually once these systems lose their moisture source, their fuel source, essentially they just fall apart, especially over a large land area like China. So that's quite an interesting. In fact, Gaemi is one of the only two named storms that traversed and stayed in the mainland of China for 2 days without re-emerging in the open waters since records began in 1951. The other storm was Wanda back in 1956, so a long time ago, and where it made landfall in Zhejiang province. Going to have to work on those names actually, based on something that's hopefully happening next year. But anyway, in the morning of August 2nd, and stayed as a named storm until the August 4th, where the centre was in the province of Henan. So Gaemi, like Beryl, is setting records in terms of rarity. But we've also got a situation where the East Pacific has the lowest ACE points up until the 26th of July on record, I believe, since 1969. You have to go back for the East Pacific being as quiet as it is at the moment. So Gaemi also produced as much as 1,412.5 millimeters of rain within a 72-hour period. Isn't that bonkers? No, in fact, it's a 24-hour period. So here in the UK, I think the record's 300 and something millimeters within a 24-hour period. I think it was set back with Dennis in December 2015, setting a new UK 24-hour rainfall record. But we've seen almost 1,500 millimeters of rain falling within a 24-hour period at one particular weather station in Taiwan. Now, Taiwan, again, is home to some of the biggest 24, 48, and 72-hour rainfalls ever recorded on the planet. And there was 1,688.5 millimeters of rain fell in a 72-hour period. So pretty incredible stuff. Now, if we happen to look at Jim Yang's Twitter page, this is some of the flooding associated. So we've seen quite widespread, epic, devastating flooding associated with Gaemi. 24-hour rainfall records here in Hunan, with as much as 624 millimeters fallen within a 24-hour period. Check this video out here, by the way. Look at this here. That's bonkers, isn't it? So yeah, epic rainfall. Philippines, Taiwan, Indochina. The system, the remnants, are going to catch the jet stream and get a free ride out into the North Pacific over the next wee while here. Another place in Guangdong receiving 401 millimeters of rain within a 24-hour period, causing flooding to the entire city. I wanted to show you this here, by the way. Imagine being on this bus. You'd certainly have wet feet, wouldn't you? Crazy stuff. So yeah, these are the scenes that have been quite typical in parts of eastern China in the last few days here. So I've spoken about the minor SSW and the effects it's having not only over Antarctica and the southern hemisphere, but the global temperature has set a new benchmark due to that. The UAH temperatures, by the way, have I got that? I'm sure I had this somewhere. Just bear with me a little second. Do I have it? Ah, here we go. So we actually hit a new record back in May. This is the lower tropospheric global temperature, by the way. This is a Roy Spencer product, and it shows the climb, essentially this kind of stepping up of the temperature within the lower atmosphere here. So there's no surprise really given what we're seeing with the record global sea surface temperatures. The land and the atmosphere is responding to that as well here. So kind of skipping over all this because I am conscious of time. Do I have... this is, by the way, with regards to ourselves in Western Europe, a rare sight indeed. Most of the UK and Ireland is in sunny skies. We've also got plenty of heat across the Paris area for the Olympics. That is going to continue to build over the next few days, and down across Spain and Portugal. These are the current temperatures across the British Isles. So you can see here, upper teens, low 20s in the north, and we've got hot conditions, borderline hot anyway, and we're going to see the temperatures rise further. Across the majority of England and Wales, we're seeing some very nice warmth indeed. Looking at the continent as a whole, and you can see where the areas of heat are. There's not many cool areas, to be honest with you, with exceptions of maybe up across parts of Scandinavia. You can see here we've still got hot conditions across the southeast of the continent, where it has been a mainstay throughout the summer. I think Belgrade in Serbia seeing the hottest July on record. Milos Milik showing that the average mean temperature has been 27 Celsius for the month of July. That has never been achieved before, I believe, in the Belgrade area. And I think records here go back to the 1800s. We've also got the upper 30s, low 40s in Spain at the moment. We've also got mid 30s across France. And that heat is going to continue to track northwards with that presence of low pressure to the west. That's going to pull some of this heat up into the British Isles over the next few days here. But I think we've got an incoming front from the west that will temper the heat across the northern half of the British Isles. So we're not going to see temperatures particularly warm, I don't think. So I think that is enough for today. I hope you have enjoyed the content. Our friend Gavin Partridge has tuned in as well. Gavin, how are you doing, my friend? I hope you're well. And check out Gav's live stream. I'm assuming he is streaming at 6 p.m. He's also done some pretty interesting content, as he always does, on his channel for today. So check that out. I think there is a bit of a solar special that's been produced. We've also got the autumn update, I think, as well. So check out Gavin's channel. So let me just round things up here. So we've got, still on the live chat, we've got Katrine, Adam Blunston, 107th Galaxy, Chris A, Gavin Partridge. We have Mark Kinnish. Who else have we got? Still got Lindsay. I know she's heading out for a night out, a staff night out. So she is raring to go to that. So I'm not going to waffle on too much longer because I want to say cheerio to her. Have I missed anybody else out? Probably have. And if I have, I do apologise for that. Big week, as always, coming up here in the channel. European Outlook is back again tomorrow. And we will be looking in a bit more detail with regards to the month of August. So before you leave today's live stream, please hit that like button if you haven't already done so. and subscribe if you haven't already done so as well, because there is plenty of stuff coming up in the weeks and months to come. We're going to be looking more and more at the upcoming winter season as well, so I know there's a bit of excitement starting to build with regards to that also. So yeah, join me for that. And I did actually forget slightly to speak about that area of low pressure over the northern half of Europe. I do apologise for that, but certainly I will talk about it in the next few days. We certainly do have a significant rain and even wind event for parts of the Baltic region, so that is going to become a bit of a story over the next few days. So enjoy the rest of your Sunday, everybody. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you tomorrow with the European Outlook. Bye for now.